Thank you, Mark. And thank you, John, for your music. You're out there somewhere, I know. But some of my favorite songs, especially this last one this morning, you know, and it just reminds me of how unity is all about learning and growing and supporting each other in this ongoing journey of life. I really appreciate being here this morning because I feel such a special connection with Reverends Karen and Mark. When I was serving as Director of Credentialing at Unity Village for 5 years and overseeing the ordination with all the Unity paths, he was leading the L&O team, and he's continuing in that role as the chair of the licensing and ordination team. And you know the consciousness he brings to that and what a difference that's making for so many young people who are coming through and becoming Unity ministers. And coming back to California a year ago, I received a call one day from Reverend Karen saying, "Margie, would you like to serve with the West Central Region Board?" And it's been such a joy to work with her. I knew that when I got here I'd want to be able to be of service in Unity in collaboration with other Unity ministers. And so I feel especially good and appreciate your warm welcome today. I've got to tell you, when I first came to Unity, I had the impression, because Charles Fillmore has all these books and all these things he's done, that he was really the person who started Unity. It was him. They just said Myrtle was a co-founder. You know, I saw the little picture of her and she looked like such a sweet little woman. And as I got more involved in Unity, I realized that most scholars actually see her as the founder of our movement. And you know, she was born in 1845. Think of it, 20 years before the Civil War. And she was born Mary Carolyn Page in Pagetown, Ohio. Well, Pagetown, Mary Carolyn Page, you put it together, right? She was born into a family of leaders. And in that time and in her day, a full college education wasn't even available to women. But she took advantage of everything she could do. She went to a 2-year course of study at Oberlin College. But before she did that, she was a professional journalist. Then she went into education after that. You know, we mostly hear about Charles and Myrtle together. But before she ever met him at age 31, she was a professional woman, serving in the communities where she lived, involved in all these circles, philosophy and study and education. But they did get together and have an awfully good time. And after they were married and they had their children and they moved to Kansas City, they started going to some New Thought lectures. You know, at that time there was really a resurgence in a number of teachers who were talking about some of these concepts, maybe not in exactly the same way. And Charles Fillmore was a practical man. You know, he was in real estate. He had a family to take care of. And so Myrtle was really anxious to learn more and to know more about how her life could be better. And I could almost see Charles standing back like this and Myrtle pulling on him and say, "Come on, Charles, come on, let's go, let's go." And they did end up going to a lecture by E.B. Weeks. And at that lecture, Myrtle heard something that changed her life forever. She heard those words, you are a child of God. You do not inherit sickness. You're a child of God. You do not inherit sickness. Well, she grew up being told that she had tuberculosis, that she inherited it and she was always going to be sick and frail. But that was not what she wanted for herself. And so she took those words home with her. She took them in her heart. She took them into prayer. And she was completely cured within 2 years of her health condition, of tuberculosis and some other problems she was experiencing. Now, as I said, Charles was kind of standing back like this. You know, he was focused on his real estate business and being a member of the business community. But he started noticing what was happening for Myrtle. And not only was she whole and healthy now, but other people in the community were coming to her. Children, adults, you know, delivery men. I mean, people saw the change in her and they wanted what she had. And they let her know. And she didn't have an experience of saying, okay, come here and I'll put my hand on your head and you'll be healed. Oh no, that was not Myrtle's way. Her way was to teach them what she had learned so that they could put it into action and have that experience themselves. It was always her way. Well, with all that Charles saw going on, at one point he and Myrtle made a covenant that they would both commit all their time and energy and resources to the work that came to be known as Unity. At that time it was called the Society of Silent Help. How many of you ever called Silent Unity? That's the Society of Silent Help. Investing all their time and energy and resources, the publications started, starting with the magazine Modern Thought, and so many more to come, because it was mostly by written correspondence that they were able to get the word out at that time. And one of the things that started happening for Myrtle, in all this busyness, in the prayer work and the healing work and the publications, was she started having dreams. She started having these dreams where children and young people seemed to be kind of aimlessly milling about and not having a sense of direction or purpose in their lives. And what came to her so powerfully in these dreams was that she was supposed to support them in their spiritual endeavors. And she took this and she carried it forward. Before her 3 sons were even 12 years old, she started the magazine called We Wisdom. I see smiles. How many of you know this magazine? I mean, it's amazing. And before publication stopped in 1991, that was the longest running children's publication ever. Now, if we'd gotten on board the electronics a little sooner, it might still be going, you know? But it is what it is, and we carry it in our hearts. She was such a powerful leader in this way. She was all about helping people to know that they could do this too. Before she passed, she knew it was time for her to go. She knew that her body was keeping her from doing all that she could do, as she described it, from the other side. And she was going around, she was letting her family members know, letting the workers at Silent Unity know that she was going to go on. Well, they did not want to hear this. You know, and one of the workers said to her, "You cannot do this. We need your guidance and inspiration here." And she looked at him with love and said, "You know you'll always have that." She wasn't going to deny anyone of her presence, but she was going to inspire and empower. One of the young people who she really supported as she was, you know, leading Unity with Charles was a young man. I mean, he wasn't even 18 years old when she first invited him in to serve at Unity. She saw the potential in him. She saw that spark in him. But she also was aware that his mom didn't necessarily give him a great role model. You know, doing things that really didn't belong on the front page of the newspaper. And so she took him under her wing. And he just demonstrated how much he could do for Unity. Time and time again, she kept giving him more involved levels of responsibility at Unity. And that young man was James Dillard Freeman. You know the prayer for protection. Many of you know I am there. Some of you may know he served at Unity Village for a number of years as the dean of the school, and for many years at Silent Unity. He was a leader in Unity, and he had this blessing that was passed on to him. He didn't waste it. In when young men were coming back from World War II, he found out about something called the GI Bill. And he realized if he could get that for some of the young men coming back from the war, there could be a whole bunch of new ministers coming into Unity. And he set it up. He made the arrangements for that. How many of you know Phil and Dorothy Pearson? Phil is one of those young men. And it's amazing how many ministries, directly or indirectly, the Pearsons helped establish throughout the Northern California area. It was about 24 years ago, I was sitting in a meditation at Christ Unity on Folsom Boulevard, and no, actually, that wasn't Folsom Boulevard. That was at across the street from the Capitol. And I was sitting in a meditation with Dorothy, and I realized one day I was going to be a Unity minister. You know, it just goes on and on and on. And the time came when I got to go to school. It was 2004. My husband Bob was also invited to be in our class, but he decided that it wasn't time for him to go to school yet. And so some friends of mine in my class that I was going to be going through with for our little 2-year journey, they invited me to share a home with them. And the home that we shared was James Dillon Freeman's former home. The prayer for protection was embedded in the floor of the basement. I mean, this was a powerful, amazing opportunity that I had to be there. And we just reveled in the presence in that place. In the first year of school, I had a primary area in one part of the house, and then one of our classmates moved to another arrangement in the second year of school. And so my primary area of the house became this upstairs area that was his non-electronic writing area. Thinking about all that had been written there was amazing to me. And because I was going to school, 2004 to 2006, I had a laptop. I had a cell phone. I had electronic devices in the non-electronic writing area. Well, I had no problems with them until I moved up there. And one day the laptop would go down, and I'd finally get it figured out and what's going on with that. And then the cell phone would stop working, and one thing after another. It was amazing. I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But I remembered my spiritual mom, Dorothy Pearson, talking about her friendship with Jim Freeman and saying sometimes she just had to give him a talking to. And I thought, do I need to do that? We did feel his presence in many ways. We felt his presence sometimes when we were sitting in a room and the lights would go off. Sometimes I'd be sitting and studying and the door latch would open and the door would swing open. So I'd gotten used to the idea of just saying, oh, hi Jim, how you doing? And go on with my day. But I really didn't think I'd need to give him a talking to, you know? But finally, I just was the point, I had to do something. And so I said, listen, I'm here for ministerial school. I'm here because I want to be one of those new Unity ministers, and I know that you want to empower new people to become Unity ministers. So please, please, Jim, let me use my electronics upstairs. Make of it what you will, but I had no problems from then on. He knew what had been given to him. He knew how to pass on what had been given to him. And you know, this is so much like our master teacher, Jesus said in John 14:12, when he was preparing his disciples for the fact that he wasn't going to be there anymore. I don't know that he necessarily wanted to leave, but he knew it was going to happen. And he told them, "These things and greater things shall you do." I don't know if I can do greater things than Myrtle, or Phil, or Dorothy Pearson, or Jim Freeman, but I know I can do my part. And I also know that in California today, there are twice as many children in poverty as there are seniors. I also know that the world is very different now than it was 10 or 20 years ago. I also know that when the generations combine to support each other in their common journey, the younger generations learn more deeply and more quickly and more meaningfully. I know that the older generations are healthier in their mind and their body and their spirit. They actually have better brain cognitive function from it. And I think, man, I want that, you know? And it just reminds me of how important it is, empowering young leaders in our community. What was given to me is amazing. And people continue to provide support to me. And I want to give that to other people too. Well, it's all consistent with this idea of the Christ within, that wisdom within. It's all consistent with the idea that continues to be carried forward today in our youth and family ministry in Unity. Drawing out the wisdom within. We don't need to pour wisdom in. We get to draw it out. But now I have to tell on myself. Because about 20 years ago, my sister had 2 little girls. And her oldest daughter, she had put in regular kindergarten for a year. And my niece's first year in school was so distressing that my sister knew she couldn't put her back in school again. And so she got together with some other parents. She started a school, and it was based on the Sudbury model from Massachusetts. Now, my sister was telling me about this, and what she told me is it's a completely democratic school. Not a school where a student can choose between 3 activities on a given day, but a school where students elect their teachers. A school where students choose whatever they want to do any day, even if it's rolling down the hill on the grass all day. Even if it's playing video games all day. They choose. Because the wisdom within them and the natural desire to learn will get them where they need to go. Well, I was shocked. I could not believe that any child would learn what they needed to learn because of this process I had gone through in school. I couldn't believe it. So I stood back and I watched, you know. I was watching. And what I saw was amazing. Because I saw both my nieces develop their natural leadership abilities, serving on the governance council for the school they were attending, participating in the adjudicatory processes when problems come up, and figure out common solutions. And they learned everything they need to learn. Both of them went on to college. One of them just graduated from Berkeley. The other one is about to do the same from Fullerton. That wisdom within. And I love being able to support them as emerging young leaders. And so if there's anything you take with you today, I'd invite you to think about the people who saw the potential in you. Think about the people who gave you that step up and that opportunity to become who you are now. And reflect on how you can do that for young people in your community. If it's asking a family member for their advice, if you see a young person doing business in the community with profound integrity, voting with your dollars, supporting them in the services and the products they provide, because they are our present and our future. Thank you, friends, for remembering these truths with me, and thank you for passing on what's been given to you.
Thank you.